Should Americans back our politicians or back a militia? Oh, Jesus. If we strike, protest, or do any resistance, the ruling class sends in law enforcement. Who do we send in when we need help? Man, it is, it is the elephant in the room, and it is a real question and a tough one. And I appreciate you ask great questions. You bring up great stuff on this show, dude, and I appreciate it, man. I like so many. I love doing the show. You guys really, you make me think, you make the audience think, you make us all think. And this is what a democracy actually should be. Like, hey, here's this situation or problem or challenge. How do we solve this? And a bunch of people weigh in and we all listen to good ideas and find the best one. I don't know, crazy me wanting a democracy rather than a kleptocracy run by oligarchs. Anyway, back to the fascist police state that we're living in. Let me take a drink of water. Should Americans back our politicians or back a militia? Jesus. If we strike, protest, or do any resistance, the ruling class sends in law enforcement. Who do we send in when we need help? That's a real question and a real serious. I am a big proponent of peaceful, nonviolent resistance, knowing full well, as we've just seen, just since the George Floyd protest, but historically this has always happened, but just since George Floyd, the last week of May, peaceful protests, people get shot with rubber bullets and maced and tear gassed. And the question is just has to be, because you're right. And then some people, many even on the left, are like, oh man, we got to arm up. Like, what is it? The NFAC, I forget what it stands for, but it's a armed black militia. And they're on Instagram and they're like, this is us lining up all these people with serious guns and automatic weapons. I can tell many of them are ex-military and that they're like training people. And I totally get that. If I was a black man in America, I would be probably like, I need a gun. I don't like guns, and I don't like where this country is headed. And knowing, especially interviewing Whitney Webb about a week ago, that the ruling class is pushing us into a civil war. The question of, do I back a politician or do I back a militia? First of all, I hope that it doesn't just come, those are the only two choices. It's one of the reasons I talk about, and I'm going to tie this back into the top of the conversation in terms of just, I don't want to, just the whole show is just crypto. I just sound like a wingbird. But again, going back to financial empowerment, one of the things I talk about on this show, in addition to a general strike, is boycotts, hitting them financially. And boycotts can be done from the comfort of your own home, especially now in the pandemic where so much shopping is happening online, right? So for me, before I'm going to like join a militia or get a gun or hope that they protect me, I would really try to figure out what boycotts and strikes can really happen. Again, I use this example a lot just because it's a very big, obvious one. The FedEx and the Washington Redskins, right? The owner for years, I'm not changing the name, the Native American community, and many others were just like, it's a very offensive name. Get rid of it. He wouldn't. When all the George Floyd protests started and people like ripping down Christopher Columbus statues, which I'm all in favor of. He was a genocidal, pedophile, awful, disgusting person by his own words in his own journal. So there was a threat, like, we're going to boycott FedEx, and FedEx went, oh, okay. Like that, the name got changed. Like that. So when I see that, I go, look how powerful that. Not one person was nightsticked. Nobody had to chain themselves to a thing. Nobody had to shoot anybody. They did that. I was online. Look what the kids did with the TikTok. And now I sound like I'm 90. Look at the rock and roll and the hula hoops. But That Klan rally, Trump rally in Oklahoma, same thing, where the young people bought up all the tickets and nobody got arrested. Nobody had to stand in front of a tank. So, because the militia shit is us and if the cops just start and white nationalists and there's just shooting then it's like, I don't know what's left for anybody to do other than either go in hiding or arm up and protect your neighborhood. I don't know what else to do, but hopefully before that happens, I say all they care about is money. All they care about is money. And when you hurt their money, that's what will change. It's why I said if LeBron and them would have said, no, man, we're done playing ball until you billionaire owners go right now. The owner of the Milwaukee Bucks and the owner of the Milwaukee Brewers goes, sorry, we need serious police reform. The owners of the Lakers go, the fact that LAPD gets 54% of the city's operating budget, that's got to change right now. That budget gets cut in half. We want more community policing. We want social programs for the homeless. And we don't want the cops to have to do traffic stops and go get homeless people out of parks and doorways. And the cops only are going to get funding for real police, like real investigative police work, child crimes, domestic abuse, sex trafficking, that. But cops aren't pulling people. Like if the LA Lakers and the Rams and the Chargers and the Sparks and the Dodgers all said, hey, Garcetti, this needs to change. And the Clippers and the Kings. LA has 8 sports teams just in LA County. That is hundreds of billions of dollars in influence. So back to your question, that's my point. The striking and protesting in the streets, you're absolutely right. The ruling class sends law enforcement to start thumping skulls. They've done that since the dawn of time. The labor protests back in the 20s and 30s. Organize an online boycott of Amazon. Reach out to Chris Smalls. I'm sure he's down with that. He lost his job just because he didn't want to get COVID and die stuffing envelopes for Jeff Bezos. So the traditional forms of protesting that you're talking about, yeah, man. It's nightstick jackboot time. We know this. It's happening every day in the goddamn streets. And then the white nationalists come out. That guy in Seattle goes and shoots the Trump supporter. I'm going to do some more research on that, but I'm learning now. That guy sounded like he was working for the cops. And then they just executed him. He got arrested a bunch of times and never got charged. Very classic. Lee Harvey Oswald, patsy, executed, can't tell a story. I don't mean to sound like I'm going off on crazy tangents, but I'm just trying to show, back to your very valid question here, because when we start, if we're at the point of militias in the streets dueling each other, there's a white nationalist militia, and there's a black militia, and there's a socialist labor militia. If that's where we're at, whew, it's gnarly. Then it's brutal. And then like America collapses, which it looks like it's doing, and it's pretty terrifying. So I would find those types of peaceful, nonviolent, even online strikes and boycotts, so we don't have to get to this point of your question. I hope that answered it, dude. I hope that answered it. It's a great question, man.